This is a very important post. I hope you watch it. I want to describe how when I was suing Malloy for money laundering, okay, and I'll show you the case. Here it is. I'll put it on screen. Flynn, Clairvoyant, and Greenwich Global. This is a brokerage firm, folks, that had millions of shares of stock stolen. Our Regeneron was stolen when we purchased it at 20. It is 660 right now, okay? We never got the shares. We're missing 250,000 Paladin Labs that was taken over at 150. I bought them at 75 cents each. That's 37 million right there. So when you look down this list, you see Town of Wilton, Town of Darien. Wilton stole NASDAQ trading machines and started day trading with our accounts. Darien is where all our bank accounts were. So when I go to this screen and we go to the Town of Darien, D5, this Town of Darien is Jayme Stevenson's town, okay? And if we go down to the section about the complaint, they hired a hitman to kill me, Chief Larrabee. Here we go, defendant, 181 through 194. Let's go down. Here's the complaint. John Flynn, my company, Clairvoyant Capital, my brokerage firm versus Norwalk, Bank America, Fidelity, NASD, that's Bernie Madoff, Town of Darien, Town of Wilton, and Daniel Malloy, okay? Under RICO, 18 U.S.C. 1961, a person who has committed at least 2 acts of racketeering drawn from a list of 35 crimes, 27 federal crimes, and 8 state crimes. This complaint encompasses every type of crime there is. So let's go to Darien, which is First Select Lady Jayme Stevenson, 181 to 194. This is right in the court screen. 181 to 194. Here's 97, U.S. Clearing, Bank America, Fidelity, Fiserv. These are clearing firms that committed 500,000 felonies, okay? So we're completely understanding. Here we go. Defendant 4, NASD. This is Bernie Madoff, who robbed us, if there's any indication. Now, those cases have never been heard, all 200 of them, by the Stanford Superior Court, or it's actually more like 300. We're getting down to where we want to be. For example, George Malley is an NASD examiner. Brian McCormick, an NASD examiner. Linda Feinberg works at NASD. Elizabeth Clancy is chairman of NASD. Avi Rosenfield is NASDAQ's arbitration mastermind. Terry Riker is the attorney for Bernie Madoff. Look at all these cases. Komorowski is an attorney for Madoff. Grant Callery, an attorney for Madoff. Bernard Thompson, ombudsman of NASDAQ. Okay, so when you look at what they did and how they did it, NASDAQ did it. Now, Bernie Madoff was chairman of NASDAQ. Look at the pleading for Defendant 5, Town of Darien. Darien police falsified an investigation and removed me as a signatory on multiple bank accounts. Yes, they did. Darien refused to prosecute stolen checks. How many? 1,300. Now we have a recent bank account stolen at First County Bank. The other checkbooks were stolen at Bank America, Fleet Bank, Bank Boston, Fleet Bank Boston, and Bank America. U.S. Clearing, Quicken Riley, Fleet Securities, okay? Darien refused to prosecute Daly, Self, and Solomon, okay? Daly was barred from the securities industry twice for life. Barred from the securities industry twice for life. Darien, the first selectman of Darien was Flynn's employer at one point, okay? Darien aided and abetted a criminal enterprise, yes. All while Jayme Stevenson was blocking check fraud and money laundering. Now, Regeneron is up to 660. We bought 8,000 shares, folks. What's 8,000 times 660? It's quite a bit. This here on the screen is Ethan Book's email to Joshua Esses, who is a very nice, fine gentleman. Unfortunately, he doesn't know the story of the Stanford Police Department hiring a hitman to kill me named Richard Filippelli, who I fought for 2.5 hours one day at my office of Greenwich Global LP. When I confronted the hitman, who was hired by a cop to kill a cop named Dealey and hired by a cop to kill a cop named Lamb, Chief Larrabee of Stanford sent him. Judge Provader and Larrabee worked together at the city of Stanford for Malloy, and Malloy made Provader a judge. So what's happening here? Police misconduct, clearly, because Larrabee used an informant to place a hit on a guy. Now, that informant also tried to kill a cop named Dealey and a cop named Lamb. So it's not just a one-time occurrence. It demonstrates that the police union, who's backing Themis Claritas, uses confidential informants to put hits on people who are honest while they steal money. It's all in the documents in the screen, folks. There's many documents. If you look at the Richard Colangelo lawsuits, it's worse. He took a bribe in a murder. Want to go to that case? I can take you there. It's quite easy. So we went to case detail. Let's go there again, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here we go. Back up. Flynn. These are all my cases. Okay. Look for the city of Stanford in 2020. Right here. Bring up the case. Here it is. Flynn, Stephen Barrier, Valerie Barrier, the city of Stanford, Michael Hayes, that's the medical examiner, Axon, the taser company, Richard Colangelo. Richard Colangelo took a bribe in this case of $1.5 million in cash with Shaw's help, the chief of Easton. And what's interesting is that Colangelo was the police commissioner of Easton that brought Shaw in to replace Winneman, who viewed the body cam evidence of the murder of Stephen Barrier. So, Winneman took retirement after a cash payday. How much? I don't know. But if you ask Lisa Wexler or Melissa Sheketoff, oh, Darnell Crossland's upset at Colangelo. Well, the real story is that Crossland paid Trish Lindsay, who paid Colangelo the bribe. They also bribed Black Lives Matter and Antifa in Stamford, Connecticut, because the mom was pen pals with Richard Blumenthal, my opponent. So what I'm doing is I'm outlining how Richard Blumenthal, my opponent, is being protected by the Stanford Police Department, who's backing Themis Claritas. Now, what's interesting here is back to Ethan's post. This is his background. I give credit to Ethan Book for trying to clean up the Bridgeport voter roll. Why? He's in court all the time proving, A, dead people voted, B, there's mortgage fraud that comes back to Judge Spader, Ed Marcus, the Ed Marcus Law Group. We found 7,000 mortgages, folks, so it's not, if you look at the Tor Moss case, which is a video on this page, he's going to court in 2 days. It's devastating what they did to him. They stole his mother's house, father's house, $75,000, all for a water bill on his mom's house and a medical bill for his father, who was hospitalized. So, I give credit to Ethan Book for the fact okay, that he's the only guy in Bridgeport, fighting corruption. And yes, everything he says that I have found is true. Now, what do you need to realize? Well, we can look at other emails of Ethan Book, and we probably should. So, here we go. Let's do that. Let's go to the mail server, go back. That's one Ethan Book. Here's a Ethan Book debacle. Don't issue until he gives me prior consent. Oh, that's fine. I won't share this with him until he says so. But if he wants an explanation about his opponent being tied to organized crime, there's no way you can commit 500,000 felonies without the police involvement, and Themis has their endorsement. So what's happening right now is police are threatening Ethan Book. Police are threatening me. Why? Because they cashed stolen checks with Richard Colangelo taking the bribe. Okay? The chief state's attorney is involved with the Sam Migliore case. What's up with the Sam Migliore case? He gave 130 videos of misconduct in Stanford, including, bribery, larceny, extortion at the Public Works Department. In other words, Eversource digs in Stanford with no prior consent, no notice. Okay? Eversource cuts corners. Eversource is working with Themis and her husband, who is CEO of Eversource. They are compromised. Eversource received a $55 million bonus for Themis Claridis's This is an internal affairs, March 25th, it being the 27th, letter, okay, to the city of Stanford, 725 Bedford Street, by Ethan Book. There's a formal complaint against 3 officers for violating the first, 14th, harassment, tortious interference in a civil matter. Okay, I was an invited guest at a Meet the Candidate dinner of Stanford Republican Town Committee. Yes, he was. Why? Because the candidate's running for Congress. This is his district. It is also my district. Okay? Here's the notice he received. It's right here in the email. There it is. All these candidates spoke. Notice Ethan's picture's not there. Notice my picture's not there. Why? Because of corruption of the Stanford Police Department that uses hitmen to kill people. Yeah, it's a fact. Provader is in on it, the judge. The state's attorney's in on it because they sprung the killer 3 times to kill the 3 people they had intention of killing. Now, what is that kill for? To cover up money laundering. How many offenses? 500,000. How much money? I don't know, 100 million? More, because I have a price target on Select Therapeutics of $1,000 a share. There's 3 million shares missing, and that's $3 billion, folks. So, let's get back to the letter. Let's go through it. It's very well written. He made an online contribution 4 times to buy tickets. It was accepted. I arrived at the designated location at 6:05. He was accosted by Andy Wainwright. Who put him up to it? Themis Claridis. He told him he should leave. Mr. Wainwright has no official position in the leadership of the Stanford RTC. He's just their thug. And he's not representing the town committee, was not representing Josh S's or who else? The No Tolls guy, who's a great guy. I spoke to Fritz Blau. We have a mutual friend, Jean Daniel. his neighbor of, 15 years. So then he physically assaulted me, attempting to forcibly throw me out. I went back in. I was peaceably mingling with other guests. There were no problems. 20 minutes later, 3 referenced police officers, yep, they danced past whatever facts Ethan gave, and you can read the rest of the letter at your leisure. I'll send you the letter if Ethan says I can. Right now, this is in confidence. Sergeant Garay said if they had left and I was back inside the social area, they would have to come and perhaps do more. They would continually harass me to make a public disturbance while he's running for office. That is a serious threat, I agree. That put me in an awkward position, especially since candidates are allowed equal time at the mic during events that are meet and greets with RTCs. Of course, the fact that he put his hands on Ethan Book and threatened me as well is not kosher. And Ethan affirmed what statutes apply. Too bad the police don't understand the statutes. Here we go. Constitutionally protected speech is arguably intertwined with tortious conduct. It is the district court's burden to adequately disclose the evidentiary basis for concluding that was independent tortious activity. Now, Nowacki won a $5 million claim against the state of Connecticut for a very similar action. What Ethan is saying, there's a constitutional violation here of free speech, and the fact that Themis put him up to it to protect his opponent, Jayme Stevenson, who's named in a money laundering complaint, seriously should be investigated, not covered up by the Stanford police. Meanwhile, just to say my piece, this front tooth was chipped, I don't know if you can see it, when I reported the Stephen Barrier murder, okay, to the police. Stephen was tasered to death. 6 cops did it at 1:30 in the morning on his 23rd birthday. 21 are in the body cam evidence 4 hours later. I put this on cleanupconnecticut.org. You can go view it. The evidence is there. You can look at the actual body cam evidence against the falsified 4-hour later body cam evidence. So the fact that the Stanford police is falsifying body cam evidence, and the state, Michael Hayes, who's a defendant in that trial, falsified the autopsy saying no bruising, and the fact that the Stanford advocate fired John Nickerson for the leak of Richard Colangelo. I spoke to Michael Hayes at the coroner's office in Hartford. He said the barrier evidence would not be ready for 5 weeks. And on the same day, Gil, Hayes' boss, handed John Nickerson a falsified autopsy, which he printed in the Stanford Advocate, that there was no bruising. Now that article is no longer available, but we have it. And the thing that you need to know is Stephen was tasered under the chin, in the temple, and in the back of the head. He was dragged around, and the police bragged that they made the 23-year-old Boston Market employee and college student crap his pants. So what happened? The NAACP had an event, and 30 people came. The second event, 100, and then 1,000, and then 3,000. And what happened at the 3,000? Well, innocent peaceful protesters were 100-pound women were kicked in the face by Stanford cops who claimed they were injured. No Stanford cop was injured, buddy. That's a bunch of crap. Because I was there. Hi, we were peaceful. I just observed. I came for 5 minutes. I saw them coming down the street, and I left. There's video of it. Trish Lindsay spoke. Trish Lindsay got the BLM bribe from our governor, Lamont, courtesy of Attorney General Tong, at the request of Richard Blumenthal, my opponent. So the state paid BLM $30 million. What you need to know is that Richard Blumenthal raises money through Act Blue for his campaign, supported by Black Lives Matter and Antifa. So not only is he supported by Hamas, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, the Houthis, Al-Qaeda, ISIS-K, ISIS, the World Trade Center bomber is his friend who arranged the money at the mosque. Not only does he own Chinese corporations, there is an investigation going on right now that I can't release the information on. But there are 47 teams of FBI agents focusing on Connecticut and Massachusetts right now, folks. And I'll soon release what I know to be true. But the problem here is that James Comey ran the Connecticut FBI, and they are still working for him. Still working for him. Now, James Comey is a Republican. Paul Manafort is a Connecticut Republican. Who do they work with? The GOP. So when you look at the GOP in Connecticut, you wonder how the chairman and the chairman, Ben Proto, was at this meeting in Stamford and didn't allow two of the candidates to speak, when in fact, that's the rule. The other disturbing part of the story is that Leora Levy, who worked for Mitt Romney, who is the only Republican in the Senate to vote to impeach Trump twice, she's not conservative. She's a liberal. She's a woke. Ben Proto is woke. Yeah, he is. They're both woke. And Ben Proto threatened to take money he raised in the Blumenthal race to sue me. And it's a picture of that text on this phone. So I think I should ask for the resignation of Ben Proto. Why don't I ask? Maybe Sue Hatfield can become interim chairman again. But I don't think that'll work either. I'll tell you why. Because while Richard Blumenthal was paying a bribe to Trish Lindsay in Black Lives Matter, Trish Lindsay paid BLM, paid Antifa, who pays Richard Colangelo, and Richard Colangelo covered up a murder of a boy who was innocent. The fact that they said he had schizophrenia is not true, according to the state. So there's lots of problems with Nemec, who's the new state's attorney, denying exculpatory evidence to whistleblowers in Stamford. Yes, he has a capias against him, a writ. There are 12 to 15 judges right now served with capias writs, and the U.S. Marshal's Office will not arrest them. What's going on here? Well, it's all coming to a head. Who's going to fix Connecticut? A guy who's working to arrest criminal judges like Spader, who's tied to mortgage fraud all over Connecticut. All over Connecticut. Thousands of cases of fraud. The Ed Marcus group, which I was talking about earlier, is part of the Benchmark Supreme Court of Connecticut criminal enterprise. Benchmark is a bunch of lobbyists that wrote legislation that Themis passed. Benchmark allows mortgage fraud by creating documents, supplying them to the tax offices of different municipalities, never notifying the citizen and causing foreclosure without notice, without claim, without title, and in many cases acts like a cashed stolen check, cashed multiple times. Andrew Pritchard has a case right now in court where the same $200,000 fictitious mortgage was cashed 4 times. Spader knows. He passed the law. He is the lobbyist for mortgage fraud. Spader knows because he's a police commissioner and the judge ruling on the case. Now, what's interesting is that Andrew Pritchard filed 80 motions against Judge Spader in the Stanford Superior Court. Judge Spader ruled on the motions to recuse Spader himself. So what's going on here? The police union is backing Themis while they're cashing stolen checks that Pravada ruled on, that Bernie Madoff blocked, that the Stanford Superior Court blocked, that Judge Jacobs blocked, that Judge Heller blocked. Judge Heller's special master is John Carberry, Bernie Madoff's attorney. Okay? Do you understand that hedge funds like D'Aleo took write-offs issued by Lamont, a $400 million write-off in exchange for a philanthropic $100 million gift, which is fraud? So I'm going to send this to Mary Fay, see what her opinion is about D'Aleo taking a $400 million write-off to stay in Connecticut in exchange for a philanthropic gift that he never gave. He reneged on, while Lamont's wife is running the pension fund of Connecticut in an offshore account with no transparency. We don't see her billing on the 50 corporations she owns. She's running the expenses of the money laundering operation through her other businesses, while Connecticut sits there and the state says it has a surplus when it's actually COVID relief money that's borrowed, and we just hit $30.4 trillion. A month ago, we were at $29.4 trillion. They spent $1 trillion in 1 month. 1 month. So I'm telling you right now, you need a fiscally conservative truth teller to be your U.S. Senator. This is 30 minutes long almost, so I want to wrap this up. Let's get back to the letter, which was the purpose of the case here. Let me switch this. There you go. Let's get through the letter. Constitutional law. They prejudiced his campaign. It's election fraud, folks. Here. What they did is reminiscent of the precedents described in Rogue Town by Dennis Griffin and Vito Carlucci. With only 6 weeks before the GOP's State Central Convention, what would you propose to correct the major damage done by your officers? For starters, they must promptly and vigorously be sanctioned. I can provide additional supporting information. I believe there are even some videos available. This is very serious. Yes, there are videos available. So let's see what they say. Ethan wants me to wait on producing these records. I say we have 4 weeks to the convention, and I will send this to each delegate. The fact that Themis used Andy Wainwright to threaten 2 candidates to cover up A, money laundering, and what other things? Bribery, extortion, murder for hire. Did Andy Wainwright cover up murder for hire for Jayme Stevenson and her cabal? The Connecticut cabal is named in this video, proved in this video, beyond a reasonable doubt. I have filed 350 lawsuits dealing with this corruption. And the fact that the state police of Rhode Island is running a meth lab from Block Island, delivering meth to New York City, Boston, Massachusetts, Providence, Rhode Island, and the heroin capital of Connecticut, should concern Connecticut. I am told by a whistleblower, we name the Highlander, that Block Island has a meth lab. You can go see the video. It's on my Facebook page. People should be concerned that what's happening with fentanyl is due to open borders. But more than that, it's legislative misconduct. They don't have a description for fentanyl. Other states are saying a fentanyl death is a poisoning, which carries murder, attempted murder charges. We don't do that in Connecticut. Why? Because we're stupid. Yes, we are stupid. What I hope to prove to Connecticut is that there's only one valid person running. It isn't Peter Lamage, who doesn't have a law degree, doesn't have a JD, and never sat for the bar. He's been saying for 12 years that he's an attorney in New York. I called New York. They have no record of Peter Lamage, none whatsoever. Can't sit for the bar. He doesn't have a JD. He is not an attorney, folks. Leora Levy is a rhino who worked for Mitt Romney, who is the only U.S. Senator, Republican, that voted to impeach Trump twice. She is a rhino, okay? Who else is a rhino? Well, Themis Claridis is a rhino. Why? Because she is anti-gun. She is pro-choice. You can go on and on about what she is. She took 5G bribes. 9 nanowatts of RF radiation causes your sperm to die. The Trumbull Mall has a reading of 1800. The Trumbull Town Hall has a reading of 1750. RF radiation. Chernobyl had a reading of 250. Long-term exposure to radiation caused the catfish at Chernobyl to grow to 12 feet in length. There is massive cancer connected to 5G. Massive cancer. There is hypersensitivity issues. There is, I don't want to go any further than 32 minutes, folks, but I'm the only viable candidate for the U.S. Senate seat. And I'm the only guy who's going to describe Blumenthal's connections to mosques that raised money for the World Trade Center bombing. Blumenthal owns Chinese corporations. You know he's a partner in Gateway or the World Trade Center? What happened to the gold there? I really wonder. I've heard rumors, but he was insured. Who got the gold? How does he make $8 million a year when he's on salary for $175,000? How does he get placed on CNN News Channel 12 Altice 5 times per weekend, 6, 7 times per weekend? What about the Helsinki Accord? What about the bribes he took from OxyContin and Ukraine's lobbyist Leitner? I think I've said enough. Let's leave it up to Ethan if I can share this. Ethan wants the background of Jayme Stevenson and her money laundering operation from Darien, Connecticut. I can assure you, Darien is a protection racket for Bank America's fraud. And who's Bank America's largest donor? Who's Jim Himes' largest donor? Bank America. Jim Himes is protecting Bank America. Who bribes Jim Himes? Yes, and who will benefit by this video? I'll tell you this. My friend Ethan Book, though we argue all the time, he's deaf and he doesn't listen, and I don't listen either. I'm also deaf. I'm saying that I'm an advocate for America. America first. Patriots. Those January 6th patriots were 1 million strong, folks. 1 million strong. They shouldn't have encroached on the Capitol. That is true. and they shouldn't be held for a year without an arraignment. I'll tell you right now, if I become a U.S. Senator, many things will change. There will be a moratorium in Connecticut for 5G. Why? Because 10 RF radiation causes retinal detachment. 10 is illegal in Italy in classrooms because they want their kids to be fertile. 10 RF radiation is illegal in Russia and Poland. Why? Because it causes cancer. That's why. And it's known. It's a fact. There's 400 studies. Blumenthal relied on a 24-year-old study for RF radiation. It was for 3G and 2G. And now we're at 5G going on 6G. 5G is 1,000 times stronger than 4G. It goes through cement walls. You think it can't go through a kid's brain? In and out the other side, through a brick wall, through a classroom, making your kids infertile? This is a globalist action. Themis Claridis works for Cohen and Wolf, the 5G lobbyist in Connecticut. Look at the other lawyers on that payroll. Have you seen what Emmons is? She's the worst judge in Connecticut, according to Andrew McDonald. Who is the worst judge in Connecticut? The worst Democratic judge in Connecticut on the Supreme Court, Andrew McDonald, thinks that Cohen and Wolf attorneys, who were ex-judges, are the worst attorneys in the state. Actually, none of that is true. The worst judge in the state is Judge Fagora. Judge Sanchez Fagora. There's no doubt about it. She took a living fetus from a pregnant woman driving through the state and gave it to her own court clerk. In Connecticut, human trafficking. Was she prosecuted? No. So I'm at 38 minutes now. I hope Ethan approves this. I really do. And thanks. Have a great day. Flynn 2022. I don't need any money to win. No, I don't. I've been funding my campaign. So tell Joe Markley that I'm approaching 50 grand now, where I need to file electronically. He thinks I've raised no money. I have raised money, and I have people offering me money. More importantly, I have all volunteers at the moment. I don't pay anyone to work for me. And we have a pretty big staff helping. We have groups working on lawsuits. We have groups working on... And that's the way to fix Connecticut. Take away the judge's immunity, just like qualified immunity, which we should bring back. It's the judges having absolute immunity that causes the problem, not the police chief with, like Winneman, who viewed the taser evidence of Stephen Barrier, took a bribe and quit. Retired. Now that's what I'm told. I can't prove that. I have people telling me that Colangelo got $1.5 million of the $30 million. But ask Lisa Wexler what she said. Ask Melissa Sheketoff what they said. I'm going to start talking about these people like John Nickerson, who knows that Colangelo was being fed with falsified autopsy by Hayes and Gill, working for Lamont. Lamont is a criminal, folks. Yes, he is. And he should be held responsible for his actions and not pull a Jonathan Wright again. Thank you very much. Have a great day. I'm the only guy working for you? That's obvious. If you don't empower me as your U.S. Senator, you may end up with Skeletor Blumenthal for another 6 years, excuse my French. We already have a Chris Murphy who's a traitor, met with Iran secretly, threatened the Ukraine president, took a bribe, threatened to remove all financial support for Ukraine if Trump's accusation of Biden was investigated. And then Biden turned around and said, if you don't fire the special prosecutor investigating Hunter, that he would withhold the $1 billion. So, Biden bribed Ukraine. Blumenthal took bribes from Ukraine. Blumenthal took bribes from OxyContin. Blumenthal is the devil. And they're all pro-choice. So, John Flynn, America first. I'll take you there. Let's save this country right now.